So, good. Just to let everybody know, first of all, welcome to our meeting. We will record this meeting, and we will also stream it on the Facebook page of Steady, so that people that cannot attend can also attend. Just a request for everybody, if he's not speaking, just to turn off the microphones, because we're going to be a lot of people here today. A big thank you to everybody. I welcome you to the Steady webinar today. Steady was formed by the Hellenic Paralympic Committee from Greece, the Agitos Foundation from the International Paralympic Committee, the Equal Society from Greece, the Serbian Paralympic Committee, Play and Train from Spain, Gea Cooperativa Sociale from Italy, the Vienna Institute for International Dialogue and Cooperation from Austria, Centro Social de Sutela from Portugal, and Futura from Bulgaria. The study project is co-funded by the Erasmus Plus program of the European Union. We're going to speak later. Vasil is going to present the goals of our project. My name is Sakis Kostaris. I'm the Managing Director of the Hellenic Paralympic Committee, and I'm very happy to have you all here with us. So for the opening, I would like to ask Mike Peters, CEO of the International Paralympic Committee, for his opening remarks. The IPC was always by our side, and we would like to have their remarks.
All right. Well, thank you very much. It's an absolute pleasure to be with you. I think first and foremost, I want to say thank you. At the IPC, we're tremendously grateful for everyone's interest on this call and for everyone's support and involvement in bringing parasport to refugees around the world. It's really again something tremendous for us to be involved with, and really appreciative of your partnership. As you may see, I'm calling you from my home office, which is my 10-year-old son's bedroom. So happy to join you here, and wish you well in these times of COVID. I guess what I'd just like to say, just by a few opening remarks, is here at the International Paralympic Committee, you may know we are often known most for being the organization that works with organizing committees to put on the Paralympic Games and Paralympic Winter Games, and through those games, we really try to change the world, drive a more socially inclusive world through those games. And we have kind of anecdotal evidence of being able to do that, whether it's changed legislation in the host country, or whether it's the creation of accessible infrastructure like public transport, for example, or whether it's changed laws, new curb cuts in Russia, increased number of accessible hotel rooms in Tokyo by law. But that's really just one of three pillars of what we do. The central pillar is we're a member organization. We have over 200 members. Themselves are organizations, most of which are national Paralympic committees. And so we try, as a member organization, we really are committed to supporting our members in what they do in their efforts. And we have, through the generous donations of some partners, like Toyota, for example, we have a lot of programs where we help support organizational capacity development. We have quite a range of members, from members who are in very resource constrained areas of the world to members who aren't, and have even very sophisticated commercial programs and platforms. But all in all, what we are trying to do is support people to have access to just parasport, so that people with disabilities can find their way to the rights enshrined in the CPRD in terms of everyone's right to play. The third pillar of our business is a newer one. Since October of 2019, we're still working quite intently on creating the third pillar, which is more of an advocacy arm. So it really goes after our vision, which is to make for a more inclusive world. And here, in recent months, we've been able to partner with some really important disability rights and other human rights organizations around the world, some of you here today, and we'll be talking probably in a different environment about We the 15, which is a global campaign we're soon launching through Tokyo Games that really over a 10-year period tries in very concrete ways to bring disability to the center of the diversity agenda. So today, you know, how parasport can be part of conversation around the well-being of refugees is really central to our efforts in promoting human rights and again making for a more inclusive world. I want to recognize the IPC. We aren't doing this by ourselves. Actually, it's really our members who are doing much of the work, and just some real shining examples in different parts of the world, whether it be our NPCs or IFs. So I'm a little bit reluctant to name a few for a fear of excluding others, but I do want to give a particular shout out to Greece, NPC Greece, our wonderful members there who've been doing some tremendous work over the last several years. We started really to demonstrate a commitment to refugees in what we do with the Rio Games. We had our first ever independent athletes team. At the time, we called Team IPA, where we had 2 athletes, refugee athletes, participating in the Rio Games. This year, we've yet to announce the team, but we'll be doing so shortly. But for Tokyo, it is a refugee team of 6 athletes is our target, and quite hopefully for the first time ever, that will include a female athlete as well as our male athletes. But these efforts have been made possible through the work of our development arm, the Agitos Foundation, and many of those program staff have now come into the IPC. It's called our membership programs team, several of whom are on the call today. And again, we're really working to promote opportunities to access to parasport, really in host communities as a tool of social inclusion. So the goal of the initiatives is to promote participation, not really to create Paralympic refugee athletes. That's really just only a really small component of the effort. The broader effort is to provide opportunity to try sport for people with disabilities, parasport, and exchange experiences with the host communities. We're not really either aiming to create parallel structures or parallel clubs for refugees with disabilities, but instead really aiming to have local clubs and local NPCs, for example, too, in which the communities and the refugees and asylum seekers can play together. So I think, I'm always in this position where I think we do, we're a sport organization first. We have a lot to learn from people who know a lot more about human rights and advancing disability rights and so forth than do we. But we think we have something to offer through our sport network, Parasport network, and we're always kind of leaning forward in our posture to be helpful however we can and to learn from you on the call who know much more than we do. So in the end, this effort today that we're talking about is indirectly feeding the Paralympic refugee team. We also have some athletes participating in the STEADY and other IPC supported initiatives who are aspiring to be part of the Paralympic refugee team in Tokyo 2020. But again, broader message, really grateful to be here, really grateful for the invitation. And I'm sure that I've been looking forward to, it's going to be a wonderful forum for discussion. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. The IPC has always been on our side in these projects, and it's doing a lot of things, and lately I think even more. So for us, it was essential that you support these projects, and we are very glad to have you on our side. And for all these people that get these opportunities to get to the Paralympic Games, I think it's very important that all this has been done, and it's especially important for society to see how we can change society for persons with disability because we have these programs. So thank you, Mike. I would now like to ask for his opening remarks, the Secretary General of Sport at the Greek Ministry of Culture and Sport, Dr. George Mavrotas.
Thank you, Sakis, and thank you for the invitation. Refugees and migration is a hot topic in social life, as we all know. Accommodation and social integration of migrants and refugees is an even more complex with economic and social implications all around. Much of the efforts of the European Union and local governments is based on ways in which people will progressively integrate in their new environment. Yet, the inequalities and diversities that can be found are numerous and complex. Especially people with disabilities are treated without consideration to their special needs. In this context, sport can be of tremendous importance as physical activity provides people with or without disability an opportunity to show their talent and overcome any social dynamics. The famous Nelson Mandela's speech in 2000, "Sport has the power to change the world," states in just 1 minute what dozens of books cannot do. The unique ability of sport to transcend social barriers makes it an excellent platform for strategies of inclusion and adaptation for people who are misplaced. The foundation of the sports is based on integrity and the fundamentals of tolerance, equality, regardless of ethnicity, origin, gender, or condition. Migrants and refugees with disabilities can become integral members of the sporting community while benefit personally from sporting activities as a way of life. With respect to human rights, enabling sport at all levels is vital to engage participants, especially youth migrants, on a path towards fulfillment, social inclusion, healthy lifestyle, and ethical behavior instead of facing poverty and discrimination. By setting a clear framework and structured concepts as well as best practices, public authorities can educate and create the basis for sport inclusion of refugees with disabilities through sport, while help them to achieve the potential to do so. Conclusively, I would like to encourage sport clubs and sport federations to support such initiatives in order to empower people to participate, get included, and re-enter normal life through the sport channel. Best luck to the STEADY program, and we will be anxiously waiting for the outcomes and the results. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Dr. George Mavrotas. He's the Secretary General of State Secretary for Sports in the General Secretariat of Sports. It's very important for us to have you on our side. It's very important for us to have support from the Greek state. And I think if we all work together, then we can make a better tomorrow. So this is also the goal of the STEADY project. And on this part, we would have our president, the president of the Hellenic Paralympic Committee, but unfortunately, because he had some technical problems, he could not be with us. So I am going to read his very quick remarks. He says, welcome to this webinar. For the past 5 years, the Hellenic Paralympic Committee, in cooperation with the International Paralympic Committee, has been leading the effort to use Paralympic sports to integrate refugees with disabilities. Today's seminar is another stepping stone to a better future and a better society. I wish you good luck and thank you for being with us. This was from the president of the Hellenic Paralympic Committee, Mr. Christos Kaloudis. And next, I would like to ask Nick Soar, Senior Refugee Sports Coordinator of the UNHCR, to give us some opening remarks.
Okay, thank you, Anastasios, and thank you to Vasilios and the rest of the team for the opportunity to participate in the event today and to say a few words, but more importantly to to listen and to learn. So I'm coming at this from the other side to Mike. Obviously, UNHCR is a refugee organization and not a sports organization. So we are learning the sports side, and that's where partnerships with organizations like the Hellenic Paralympic Committee and the IPC and Agitos Foundation are so important. It's also great to see some familiar names and organizations, especially those that are part of the global coalition for refugees in sport that was formed around the Global Refugee Forum in Geneva in 2019, and particularly IPC, the Hellenic Paralympic Committee, and the Vienna Institute for International Dialogue and Cooperation. So it's great to see that the work that was started in 2019 is continuing. As I'm sure some of you are aware, UNHCR has taken a lot more interest in sport in recent years. In fact, since about 2017, and we feel that internally, anyway, and through discussions with external partners, that the refugee and sports space has developed quite considerably in the last 3 or 4 years. And the interest from sports organizations in supporting refugees through sport is, to be quite frank, phenomenal. So it's a real pleasure to see the development. However, I guess that as with all things, there are caveats, and traditionally marginalized groups such as the 15% that Mike referred to earlier, those affected by disability, and by all estimates, a much bigger proportion in displaced populations because of the experiences they've had, have not benefited equally from this proliferation of interest in working with displaced populations through sport. So I think, internally, UNHCR is catching on to the need to have a bigger focus on disability issues, both within our workforce, but more importantly for the people we serve, and we're working towards improving the way that we work on disability issues in both spheres, and sport is one of those areas that we're looking at in particular. So from my perspective, this is why it's particularly exciting to be able to participate in the call this afternoon, and to hear about and understand what the outcomes of the learning that's taken place since 2019 is as part of the study project. So I'm very much looking forward to listening and understanding what all of the organizations involved have been up to. And I'd like to thank you for all of the amazing work that you've been doing in support of those who've been displaced. Back to you, Anastasia. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you. You're doing very good work there, and UNHCR has played a major role here in Greece too. So I like to hear that sport plays more and more important role. I think that's what the IPC also underlines, that sport has the power to change the world. So thank you for that. But let us now have a look on the study projects. I would like to ask Vasilis Kalivas, who's a study project manager and also technical director at the Hellenic Paralympic Committee, to present us a short introduction so we can learn what we are talking about and what the project is all about.
Hello, everybody. It's great to be here with you today, and I'm very happy to see so many people having a strong interest in the field of sports and refugees with disabilities. To be honest, I could not imagine when we started this initiative in 2016 that we would reach a point that this topic would be of such an interest, and we feel very nice about that. I will try with my presentation to introduce you into the study project initiative. Study project actually started in 2019. It's a 3 years Erasmus Plus Sport program, but it did not come out of the sudden, and there is a give me a second. There is a background of activities and projects that were before that, and I will try to introduce you to this procedure. How did we get here, and why did we start study? As I told you, it did not appear out of the sudden. Back in 2015, as you all remember, there was a major refugee crisis that shocked Europe. But before Europe, it shocked Greece, Italy, Spain, the countries of Europe that are in the front line of the refugee crisis. So at that time, in almost 1 year, we had about 1 million of refugees coming to Greece from eastern regions, and as a result of the war in Syria, mostly. And this was something that we could not avoid. We could not avoid caring about that. We could not avoid thinking about that in Greek society. At the beginning, it felt like it was only a local problem for Greece, for Italy, for Spain. But very soon after that, everybody realized in Europe that this phenomenon and this refugee crisis was to expand and be a topic of interest and of thinking for all European countries.
Vasilis, can you speak up a little bit? Can you speak a little bit louder, because some people are complaining?
Yes, is it better now? Is it better now?
Yes, that's better. That's better.
Good,
Thank
good. You. So amid this crisis in 2015, we were thinking of doing something about that, and we thought about submitting a proposal to IPC and the Gitos Foundation about that. There was also an incident that happened in 2016, just before the Rio Paralympic Games. We had a refugee athlete from Syria living in Greece. He had recently arrived in Greece, and he was training in swimming. He had suffered a recent injury because of the war in Syria. And at that time, in spring 2016, this athlete, due to the cooperation of the Hellenic Olympic Committee and the UNHCR department in Greece, he was invited to participate in the torch relay that it was going on in Greece before passing the torch to Rio de Janeiro for the games, for the Olympic Games. So the Hellenic Paralympic Committee contacted the National Paralympic Committee, and we cooperated very fast and effectively. And very soon after that, from spring 2016 to August 2016, Ibrahim was promoted by all of us to be the part of the International Paralympic team of IPC, which is now called the Paralympic Refugee Team. And he was the athlete that opened the Rio Paralympic Games during the opening ceremony. And it was great that IPC really embraced him and all the team of refugees in Rio. And this created a very good and boosting momentum, actually. So the Hellenic Paralympic Committee acted fast to accelerate and multiply this positive impact. And we proposed to IPC and the Gitos Foundation the Paralympic Education and Development for Refugees with Disabilities project. So this project it's still running, actually. But during the first 3 years, we had quite promising progress and outcomes. Actually, the project was trying to find the refugees with disabilities and introduce them into parasports and into the Paralympic movement in general. Because we all know that the Paralympic movement is not only about sports, it's about inspiring people, it's about social inclusion, it's about empowering people with disabilities. And we thought that this project would match very well to these objectives. So during these 3 years, in general, the project created a pool of athletes for the IPC's Paralympic refugee team. As Mike Peters said before, 6 athletes will participate in Tokyo Paralympic Games, in comparison to Rio, that we only had 2, but it was very good beginning. And so some of these athletes are coming from the pool of athletes that we created here in Greece. More than 25 athletes participated in the program during these 3 years. 8 athletes participated in national championships in the sports of para-athletics, para-swimming, boccia, wheelchair fencing, and powerlifting. And 3 of them made it, and they participated in the national competitions during these 3 years, the first 3 years of the project. One of them participated in the IWAS Games in 2018. One other participated in the Para-Swimming World Championships in 2018 and 2019. And we also had another athlete, Wissam. He participated in Wheelchair Fencing World Cup in Poland in 2019. We are happy because during the seminar later on, we will have some of these athletes be here presenting themselves and speaking about their experience. Besides the organization in the field, the actual sports activities, we started thinking about disseminating the project in Europe, because as we said before, this was not a local thing. The refugee crisis and the refugee phenomenon was not only affecting Greece, but it was a European phenomenon, and we thought it would be great to disseminate this in order to escalate and maximize its effects. So after the first year of the project, in 2017, we started asking from European NPCs to partner us in this project. And we had 8 European NPCs were invited and accepted to join the project and spread the word of the initiative in their countries. In 2018, we organized a working group meeting in Athens with cooperating European NPCs for this purpose. And we ran a major international refugee summit and parasport awareness event, the Parasports Unite event, in Athens for the promotion of the project. So this is how the project was progressing these years. And we also would like to mention that we evaluated the project using the methodology of the Social Return of Investment Index, which is similar to the return of investment methodology evaluating the outcomes of a project in the market. But SROI methodology does this for social projects, and with the expertise of an external partner, Equal Society, which is also a partner of the study project now. We ran an evaluation of the project. Basically, this evaluation used qualitative methods to interviews and questionnaires with all the involved parties of the project. And using a scientific methodology, they are able to quantify the results of qualitative methodology. And basically to see for every euro or dollar that is spent to run a project, what is the return of this investment to society. And we were very happy to see that running this project for refugees, it was not only good for in terms of feeling and contribution to the people, but it was also good for society, because refugees participating in the project and also other members of the project was getting back a lot in their lives. So all this situation led to a need to develop the project more. And we had during the first year HPC and Tagitos Foundation and IPC that we started the project. During the next 2 years, 2017, 2019, we focused on attracting more NPCs in order to participate and disseminate the results. And this ended up in a need to start a new project about the same topic, but now using the conclusions we had gathered in the previous years, and try to do something more. So we submitted to the European Commission the study project, which sports as a tool of empowerment for disabled, displaced youth in Europe. And this is how we are here now with the study project. The study project was born in 2019 within the Erasmus Plus framework. The main objectives of the project was not just to organize some more sports activities for refugees, but using the conclusions from the previous years, as I told you, to be able to produce and develop some tools that would be used and would be useful for professionals in the field of refugees, professionals in the fields of sports, sports organizations, NGOs working in the field of refugees, to use these tools and products in order to be able to start similar products in their countries. So the main objectives of the study project was a baseline study and the reporting of parasports and refugees reality all over Europe, which has already been done. And after this presentation, Alice Bruni from GEA, a valuable partner of study project, will present to you. Also, we had to, as an objective, the development of a manual and a handbook for the use of parasports as a tool of refugee empowerment and inclusion. Equal Society, another valuable member partner of the study project, led this deliverable, and Fotis Spiropoulos will also present to you after my presentation the results of this deliverable. Another policy recommendation that we have, another deliverable that we have to produce is a policy recommendations document about using the conclusions of our findings in order to help suggest entities that are in charge of making policy for sports and refugees and use these outcomes. And also another objective is networking and stakeholders list building with the participation of more NPCs, NGOs, and other organizations. And we're happy to see right now that in this meeting, we have partially developed and achieved this goal, because we see that more and more organizations, NGOs, and NPCs are getting interested in the project. Basically, this is how the study project was inspired and born in 2019. This is for now from me. I will pass the relay the baton now to Sakis and to Alice and Fotis to present you these two objectives that has already been accomplished. Thank you.
Thank you, Vasilis. As we have seen, there's quite some work that has been put into this program, and there's some history. And I'm glad that, for example, Vasilis mentioned NPCs that participated in the program. We have today with us Christina Kogla from the Austrian Paralympic Committee, Kruno Zadro from the Croatian Paralympic Committee, and of course, Bojan Jaksimovic, who is with the Serbian Paralympic Committee, is also a partner in this project. And of course, we have also Xenia Passa from UNHCR Greece with us. She helped us also a lot during our endeavors here in Greece. So let us move on and see now the project's key findings. The presentation will be done by Alice Bruni. She's director of the project office of the GEA Cooperativa, and she will present to us the project's baseline study and what we have found out so far. Alice, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sakis. Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to see a lot of participation in our webinar and the attention that is on this topic. It's very important for us. And so, yeah, I will introduce what are the main findings of our first outcome of the project. So the first output that we realized, which is exactly this baseline study.
It was in the kennel.
And so, yeah, this is the first output that we realized, and it was released in 2020.
So anyway, they have to do that.
Sorry, I think some participants.
Hello, this I don't know if you guys can see me. This is Abbas, and it's a Zoom chat for. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, Abbas, we can hear you. But just a moment, we have a presentation now, and I will give you the floor later on, okay? If you can have, do you have time to wait with us?
Oh, yeah, of course. I'm eating breakfast. I just came from swimming, and if you, yeah.
Good, good.
You know.
Have your breakfast and keep on with us, okay?
Okay,
Sorry, Alicia, move on.
No, it's okay, of course. the live event. So as I say, yes, this was the first output that we have realized in the project, and it was quite a long process, especially because it was the first approach for our organization on this challenging topic. And we start working on this study around March 2019, so the first year of the project, and it was delivered at the end of March 2020. And it was the first output that exactly has the title itself say. The main aim of this output were exactly to give partner a kind of a base situation, so to have a clearer picture of what was the situation in Europe around this target group, so around the youth displaced with disability in Europe. So the first objective of the study was, of course, to collect some data about the situation of the target group, not only quantitative data, but especially qualitative data. So to give us some base for our organization in terms of capacity, in terms of information, in terms also of who are the stakeholders around this topic in Europe. Of course, with this study, another important aim was to try to investigate some more the main barriers that was preventing the equal access to sports. So how to overcome this barrier, what has been done in the past, and what the study project could bring more to this aim. And of course, as it was the kind of the first step for us to go into the topic, it was also an opportunity to start contacting the main stakeholders in Europe. Because as Vasilis mentioned before, the partnership of studies is mixed. So it's made of sport organization, social organization, Paralympic committees. So we had all different stakeholders or networking, maybe in our area, more social or more sports or a combination of the two. So it was interesting also releasing this study, had contact with organizations, let's say, outside our main field of work and try to get connection, which is one of the main aim of the study project in general. Partner decided to adopt a mixed methodology, also because from the start we were aware of how challenging it is to find data on our specific topic. So this was there was some kind of awareness at the beginning that it wouldn't be easy to just go out and even to the main stakeholder and have some data about our target group. So besides some survey, we start with the internal survey. So all our partner organizations add some kind of capacity and expertise in working with refugees with disabilities, or with people with disabilities. So with our mixed expertise, we thought that start from the internal competences was a good thing to do. So there was an internal survey to assess some data and information, besides some desk research that allows us to somehow to put together some important quantitative data. But of course, beside the quantitative data, we wanted to find out some more qualitative information that could help us shape the rest of the work in the project. So we realize focus groups. So each partner organization organize national focus group with choosing the most relevant stakeholders to get information. And again, through this multi-professional approach. So the participants of the focus groups, that in total were 56 in all partner countries, were exactly representative of this combination of sports, social, and policies competencies. So there were, for example, some national Paralympic committee reference or some local Paralympic committee reference, together with some NGOs expert and so expert in refugees, and of course our partners as well, sport organization, athletes themselves, so many athletes with disabilities and para-athletes, to give all these different points and try to create the bigger picture. And finally, we also try to collect some case studies, so some good practice, or at least, some practice around Europe that has dealt with our target group. So partner identified 18 case studies. So each country has participated with one up to 3 case studies for each country. And these case studies has focus as with the rest the rest of the study, that it was not easy to find a practice that exactly dealt with our target group. So most of the practice were people with people with the status of refugees in sports, or people with disability in sports. So how to blend these groups, how to blend these vulnerabilities together in order to create something more powerful for their social inclusion. In terms of data, as I said at the beginning, probably this was the most challenging part of the study, because as I said, all partners try to reach the public institution that deal with the collection of the quantitative data around refugees. And it came out that there was no way to find out exactly a number and exactly classification also of people with disabilities, the refugee status in our countries. So we try to, of course, we have some estimation. So we put together the last quantitative data of the European Migration Agency, together with estimation of the World Health Organization around disability. And we can definitely assume that if in the poor population, around the 10% and 15% of people live with disability, applying this estimation to the number of refugees and people with the asylum seeker status in Europe, we could have found more or less how was our target. But what came out, so one of the first findings is that at the moment, there is no structured data around the youth displaced with disabilities in Europe. Around the kind of disabilities, we also try to assess which kind of disabilities were the most common in our target group. And of course, when it comes about displacement and refugees, most of these disabilities were linked to the migration path and to the country they come from. So of course, most were disabilities connected with the conflicts and war area. But on the other side, there was a high number of trauma. So we were more talking about mental disability and disabilities caused by the stress and the traumas that the migration journey has caused. And this is one of the reasons why, so this other side, let's say, of the disabilities, not the visible one, was one of the reasons why we find out it is very hard to classify these disabilities, to identify them. So at the border of the European Union, of course, when people are registered on their arrival, it's very hard to assess this kind of disability, mostly because not all of disabilities are evident, because some migrants, it came out that they hide these disabilities also, and there is a lot of unawareness also about all the traumas and the mental disability that of course can reveal themselves at a later stage. So this was one of the tricky points in gathering data and information about also the kind of disabilities that our target group deal with. Of course, we had a lot of main findings. So this first study was very interesting, I guess, also for our partner organization as well. So first of all, for the partner, because there were many findings. And so we tried to sum up here what were the main findings. And as I say, the lack of data and the lack of structured data, I would say, is the first thing that came out. And of course, if you want to, all partner organizations think that if we want to improve the capacity to provide some efficient service in sport to our target group, to try to have a more structured data and also try to assess a system to make more evident which kind of disability we are dealing with, it will be the first step to elaborate a more efficient approach. Also, since, as I said, through the whole process of realizing the study, we have used this kind of a multi-professional and combined expertise approach. It came out that there is still need to work more on creating some kind of stable cooperation between, on one side, the NGOs and the non-profit organization that provide services for refugees, and on the other side, the public agencies. So, of course, the policymaker and the institution that in each state and as well as in Europe deal with the migration law. On the other side, the study project had a third actor, which is the sport system, of course, so the sport organization. So we found out many interesting practice and data in all of these three stakeholders categories, but still we face the difficulties of combining them together with a structured approach. Also, we found out there is a lack of a specific law on our specific targets. So during the focus group, it came out also that only Austria has a specific law, for example, in sport, to facilitate sport with of refugees with disability, while in other countries there is a lack of this law. And gladly we can mention about law on the law side, at least the last strategy about the rights of the people with disability that has just been launched in March by the European Commission from 2021 to 2030. For the first time in this category, sport is named among the rights, and also refugees with disability are named as a category themselves. But of course, there is still a lack of specific law about our target group. Another important data that came out is the important role of the grassroots sports organization in organizing activities for sports and inclusion. So in the case study that we find out, many of them were run by grassroots sports organization. And this is an important potential, but at the same time it shows some weakness, because as we all know, the grassroots sports movement, it's very rich, but mainly run by volunteers, that there is a big turnover, and especially after this COVID crisis, this sector was hit in a very harsh way. So of course, we see a lot of potential there, but the grassroots sport organization must be supported by policies, by law, and by capacity. And that comes with the lack of specific skills to deal with the specific target. So together with the potential, we see a lot of investment to be made to support the grassroots sports in keep providing this sport for all and sport for inclusion activities. Another interesting finding was, of course, the intersectionality of many different mixed combination of factors that make our target specifically vulnerable. So, of course, there is a lot of discrimination on refugees in general, and you have to sum up the discrimination for the disabilities, because we all have to remember that people with disability in general are much more exposed to discrimination, and up to 50% compared to normally 37% of risks to discrimination that is generally assessed. And on top of this, we found out also other discrimination, gender discrimination. So in almost all study country during the finding of the report, we find out that women and girls with disability are specifically left out of sport, even more than the men and boys. So there is a lot to do also on the gender gap side, even with this specific target group. So generally, we find out that the main reason, the main barriers, it was identified in all the countries as cultural barriers, but meaning with that a general difficulty to approach this target group exactly because of the intersectionality of a lot of causes of discrimination and a lack of preparation on the side of the social worker, from the side of the institution. So in the focus group in many countries, the cultural barrier was the most named as a cause of discrimination, as a main barrier. And of course, after all this finding, we came out with some main conclusion. And the first thing, exactly as it's the spirit of the study project that Vasilis mentioned, is networking, so increasing cooperation. This is exactly one of the first main conclusions of our study. So the cooperation and networking between these different stakeholders that we named before, so the public institution on one side, the NGO and the non-profit sector that deal with refugees, and the sport world. These three sectors, they really need to combine their efforts, their expertise, and their support to create some specific program and some specific expertise that can really help this target group in the social inclusion path. And so, of course, develop tailored intervention is essential, because in all our case studies and all the findings, it came out that very few of these interventions are specifically dealing with displaced youth with disabilities, or anyway, refugees with disabilities. So in most of the cases, we blend together different interventions dealing with people with refugee status or people with disability, but very few of these interventions as a tailored structure programs for exactly this target group. Another important conclusion that we saw, and they came out from many focus group and also many case studies, that the most effective approaches for this target group was using role modeling as a tool. So for young, especially for young people, but in general for refugees with disability, to see, to be represented in sport, so to see themselves represented in sport by other peer, it was very effective for them to try to access sport and as a motivation factor. So in terms of methodology, the role modeling was one of the methods that we would like to assess more also during the study project. And as I mentioned before, yeah, the need to strengthen the grassroots sport clubs that are doing a lot of effort in Europe to try to increase the social inclusion of people with disability through sport. It's one of the factors, especially after how strong this sector was hit after the COVID-19 situation. Of course, it can be done alone. And especially we find out that many of the case studies that still had a very good impact in terms of local experience were not scaled up or could not be supported any longer because of lack of funding, because of turnover of volunteers. So all this great practice at local level without a framework and without a specific support for the grassroots sport club risk to remain, to have a very low impact at national level or at European level. So we can say these were the main conclusion of our baseline study, and of course the baseline study is available in our website, so you can go to the study website and download the whole study. And we also put all the recommendation, or let's say the lesson learned from this initial study that have then fueled the rest of the output of the study program. Thank you.
Thank you, Alice. That was very interesting. And may I please ask everybody to keep the time that is assigned to them so that we can move on with the program. Let me now ask Fotis Spiropoulos, project manager from Equal Society, to present to us the study project outputs, recommendation manual and social inclusion of displaced youth and disabilities through sports, and the handbook on supporting DYDs in parasports. Fotis, you have the floor with a kind request to be as quick as you can.
Yeah. I will be fast, no worries. I will share my screen. Just a moment, please. Perfect. Okay. Here we are. Are we okay with the share screen? Okay.
Yes, I think we can see it.
First of all,
move on.
Perfect. First of all, I would like to thank you all for this amazing opportunity and this amazing conversation here. Equal Society is a non-governmental organization here in Greece, and we are fighting against discrimination and for social inclusion. And before everything, I'd like to thank the Hellenic Paralympic Committee for the hard work and the amazing results. Now, I would like to talk about the recommendation manual and the handbook and all the procedure that we followed, but I think that I have to be more practical for all of you, because it's important to understand why we did everything for this project. The recommendation manual. What is the recommendation manual? It's we try to highlight the positive relation between sports and social inclusion, to find good practices in this document, and to present examples of corporate strategies, how companies try to use sports as a tool for their activities in the field of social inclusion, and of course highlight the challenges that we found during our study. Everyone told that sport is an important tool for social inclusion, and we can argue that because it's the absolute truth. It gives us the opportunity to find a way in the minds and in the life of migrant refugees, and we can approach them in order to make them find their position in Greek society and in every European society. And that's what the manual showed us. During our study, during the manual study, we found that there are cultural barriers. We found that there is a lack of culturally appropriate programs right now in Europe. There are practical and financial constraints. You understand that in order to create and achieve the goals of a project, financial requirements are really important. Of course, there are technical barriers because many organizations doesn't know how to use sports as a tool in the field of social integration. And of course, there are stereotypes, prejudice, language constraints, everything. We narrow down each barrier and we put it down in the manual that we created. The most important things though is to understand and follow some basic steps. The first step is cooperate with your stakeholders, listen to them, understand them, and in your intervention, follow their lead. Sometimes it's really important to understand what they really need and put it even in your national framework. The second most important thing that we understood through our manual process is that first of all we have to make people understand what we are doing, understand and raise awareness, make them understand us and raise awareness in the importance of sports as a tool of inclusion. There are recommendations for each part that you can find in the manual. I don't want to make it difficult for all of you and say too many things, because in the next days the manual and the handbook will be also in the website of the study project, so you can find everything you want right there. Sometimes it's important also to understand that sports activities must be combined with other things. We cannot just do sports. Sports and accompanying services should provide language courses, raising awareness, legal aid. It's not just sports. Sports is the tool to make them find their way in life, but it's not the start and the end. During this journey, you have to make them understand that they have to follow other projects, other initiatives in order to make their lives better. Refugees and disabilities are right here, and we have to make them feel comfortable because from now on, this is their country. Of course, another key element is that we understood that we have to follow the capacity building a mentality of coaches, professionals, and volunteers. And this is a very important thing because each one believes that, I know how to approach refugees, how to help them, how to make them understand that this is a journey and how to proceed during this. But it's not so simple, especially when we are talking about sport activity, right? We have to organize capacity building activities and make them understand not just the importance of sports, but also make them understand that this could be a useful tool for refugees and migrants, not just to find their way here in their life, but also to follow up and after all this, make lessons, language lessons, etc., etc., etc. In terms of funding, it's not easy to find just one donor. So funding is a process that we each one of us has to follow and find different funding opportunities. This is the key. Especially here in Greece, foundations love to, cooperate, and so an application to many organizations or foundations is going to be really important in order to achieve our goal. Now, the handbook is much more, practical, and what we did is to we tried to create some steps in order to make not only coaches but volunteers and people who love sports understand the importance of sports and how they can make them a useful tool in their organizations. As I told you before, there are many barriers. There is lack of knowledge. There are difficulties. There are different experience and different mindsets, but we truly believe that with this handbook, we can support sports instructors, professionals, and volunteers, find a much more easier way in their if they really want to use sports as a tool of social inclusion. We truly believe that it's a good work. You will find it. I'm saying it again in the study project website the next days. And in order to understand what to do in this handbook, you are going to be informed about the migrants or refugees' everyday lives, the asylum procedures. You are going to understand their cultural and religious characteristics. You are going to identify signs of traumatization and how to respond to these. You have the opportunity to understand and see the guidelines in terms of discrimination or how to organize a non-verbal training sessions. And of course, we enhance the collaboration with other relevant organizations and communities. These stuff are going to, I'm pretty sure that they're going to be very useful for each one who wants to use sports as a tool for social inclusion, and the handbook is there for all of you. Our aim with this document is strengthening the skills and competitive sports instructors, professionals, and volunteers, as I told you before, in order to make them design and implement their projects. Not just to present some theoretical steps, but also to inspire them, I would say, to create their own programs and activities. And here you can see the steps that are going to lead each one who is interested in this procedure to their goal. It's important to understand that capacity building is the first step, and I truly believe that organizations such as the Hellenic Paralympic Committee, Agit's Foundation, and other great organizations could show to each one who is invested in this culture, the culture of sports, and show us the way on how we can approach and create the best environment for refugees and migrants. As you can see, there are many variables, but I truly believe that with the handbook and the experience of people that know how to approach those vulnerable groups, you can develop a really good training program and a really good procedure. There is one thing that I would like to also underline is to be prepared if you're going to approach children. It's a whole different situation, and of course women. It's important to know how to approach children and women, because the culture is different, and you have to be informed in order to strengthen your communication abilities, inspire them in order to cooperate with you. You have to make them understand the importance of sports activities, and introduce them to a safeguard in terms of if you want to proceed with children. I was fast, but I totally believe that the manual and the handbook are very, very important as tools. I'm really glad that Equal Society is a part of this cooperation, and I would like to say all of you that before the study project, we didn't believe that we didn't know that sports can change people's lives, but we saw it, and it's absolutely true. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for this. This was very interesting. And now I would like to give the floor to Jose Gabo from the Agitos Foundation and the IPC. and he will coordinate some presentations of best practices. Jose, okay, I have the floor.
Thank you very much, Sakis, and all the partner organization and people following this conversation. It's a pleasure to be here, and sorry, because I'm gonna do a short introduction because one of our guests has to leave, and I really want to give the floor to the members, some members on IFs that have been working in the area. And then I'm gonna swap the agenda. So I will talk about the Akitos Foundation and the IPC, the work that we've been doing since 2016 a bit after that. And I will pass the floor directly to one of our partners, the partner of the International Paralympic Committee, and it's Karin Tio. She is the International Table Tennis Foundation Head of Programs. And I really want to pass the floor to her. To tell us, she's going to explain us a little bit about the Dream Building with Refugee project that they have in Jordan, supported by the Agitos Foundation. And so, Karin, the floor is yours.
Hi, thanks a lot. Sorry about this. So our project is very simple. We started in Jordan in 2 camps. We already had a program in the Zaatari camp, and we wanted to test something new with a different kind of approach in the Azraq camp. And we have continuously a close relation with Agitos and RPC, and when we signed the UN Global Compact on Refugees, also decided to commit to new projects and develop our expertise here. So we started this project with the support of Agitos and just before COVID. And we faced quite a few challenges on the way, but the main idea is really to offer sport to the youth in the camp. It's really a growing population in the camp, and persons with disabilities have a tendency to not be given as many opportunities in the camps, and are often staying home because infrastructure and there are a few barriers that they face in comparison. And one of the examples is also during COVID, the program could continue, but persons with disabilities were considered to be more at risk. So for example, it would have stopped for them if only, and it could have gone on for a person not without disabilities. So there are quite a few challenges out there for them to have access. And the main impact that we're looking to have is just provide access. It's very basic. We just want them to provide them access, and we're looking at all the challenges that we are facing to do this. So finding the right partners, making sure they are able to even get to the centers, speaking with the families and the other organizations that work with persons with disabilities so that they can have regular and weekly activities. So far we're able to have regular activities, and it started again, even though there was a pause for Ramadan. And we have a group of 10 to 15 participants who go on a regular basis with disabilities. And the idea is really to start offering them long-term some events and some competitions as well that can then be mixed. So we really are looking to change attitudes within the camp and show that they can do quite a lot. We're not looking to make Paralympians. That would take quite a while for us. So it's really like a grassroots access to sport and breaking down the boundaries for them. And so here you can see a photo of the top photo on the left is in the Zaatari camp on the UEFA pitch. It was like an event to start off with all the families. And on the bottom is within the Taekwondo center in the Azraq camp. So for all these projects, we always have to partner and we need support because they all function very different ways. So in this case, we always have UNHCR, who is always really helpful. And in Azraq, we work together with the Taekwondo Center, and we also use their facilities. and the Al-Noor Al-Hussein Foundation, who also helps with the logistics of bringing persons with disabilities to the center. And in Zatari, we work also with Peace and Sport, who have a wider program with different sports. They don't focus on persons with disabilities, which is also why we wanted to bring it there to make it more of an inclusive program. Yeah, if anyone has any questions.
Excellent, Karin. Thank you very much. I actually have a question. My question would be, what was the motivation of the International Table Tennis Federation Foundation to kickstart this project with persons with disabilities?
I think there were two main things. The first one is, I think within ITTF, it's in our DNA. Para table tennis is within the federation, but within the more table tennis for development sector, so the more the social side, which the foundation works on, there it's something that we don't always do because we target a specific problem with a specific solution. So for example, it would be gender equality or refugee integration. And then we realized, okay, but these also need to be inclusive. So we really need sport for development projects to be more diverse and inclusive for everyone as well, even though we have a target group that is someone different, or the impact that we're measuring is different. So it was also for us to learn and to see how we could make our programs in general more inclusive. So if we're working with refugees, then how can we make sure we're working with all the refugees who need access to sports? So that was one of the big motivations. What's very helpful is that the leadership is very close, the foundation, ITTF, and Agitos and IPC, so it also helps the relations. And then signing the UN Global Compact on Refugees with UNHCR, because then it means a commitment from the leadership, which then means we can have some concrete actions.
Karin, thank you very much. I know that you have to leave, and so I want to apologize for starting this session late. And but we know that we're gonna be in contact with us. We're gonna keep working together, and we really appreciate the efforts that the International Tennis Federation and Foundation are doing in the area of refugees with disabilities. So Karin, thank you very much for your presentation.
Sorry.
Yeah, no
Sorry
worries.
it was so short. And if anyone has any questions or wants to know more, don't hesitate to drop us a line. You can write to me as well directly.
Yes, may I say that you can write your questions over the chat box that we have here, and we will keep the questions and forward them to everybody who's concerned, or we will answer them at the end of the session, the Q&A sessions. Thank you, Karin.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. Sorry.
Bye, Karin. Thank you. Okay, so now now that we will have a little bit more time, if you write your question in the chat for our next guest, I can address those questions. I can ask this question to our next guest, who is from Rwanda. He is Placide Bagabo. Placide works as the president of the National Taekwondo Federation in Rwanda, but it's also the local coordinator of the project of the Taekwondo Humanitarian Foundation in the refugee camp in Mahama in Rwanda, and he's gonna explain his experience and the experience of the Taekwondo Federation working with refugees there. Placide, thank you very much for being here. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Jose. Thank you, everyone, for giving me this opportunity to share my experience for introducing para taekwondo in the refugee camp, especially in Mahama. My name is Placide Bagabo, and I'm from Rwanda. In 2016, the United Nations signed a framework agreement with the World Taekwondo to begin Taekwondo academies in refugee camps through member national associations like Rwanda Taekwondo Federation. In 2016, at the General Assembly of World Taekwondo held in Vancouver, Canada, it was announced that World Taekwondo would partner with Rwanda Taekwondo Federation through their Taekwondo Humanitarian Foundation to aid Rwanda Taekwondo to initiate taekwondo academies in refugee camps found in Rwanda. Academies have been established in different countries and have been useful in assisting refugees to overcome challenges resulting from their losses due to war and famine. Rwanda Taekwondo Federation has started with the Kiziba refugee camp, which is located in the western province of Rwanda since April 2017. And Taekwondo Humanitarian Foundation decided to expand the project to Mahama, the youngest and the biggest refugee camp in 2018. This camp is located in the eastern province of Rwanda. You can ask me why taking Taekwondo to refugees. It's simply because it's something to do, because Taekwondo provides something to wake up for and look forward to. Health play for children and multi-dimensional exercise for adults. It's fun to do. Why? Because Taekwondo is not just a martial art or an Olympic sport. It is an enjoyable activity for people regardless of age, gender, color, or culture. It's an inspirational sport to do because its practices engenders physical and mental confidence. As such, Taekwondo delivers a value many refugees are lacking, which is self-respect. It's a good sport to do simply because many refugees face health problems. And we all know that prevention is better than a cure. In terms of building a fit and a healthy physique, Taekwondo is a near perfect exercise. It's an easy sport to do. Why? Because Taekwondo requires minimal equipment, no nets, no balls, no courts, just the human body. It's an important sport because its benefits extend beyond the physical. The sport teaches manners, perseverance, and self-control, while its inspiring component demands courage. It's a sport you can do always, because once given is a gift never taken away. It's always with you and can be practiced anywhere at any time. Para Taekwondo was introduced in Mahama in 2018, and the Mahama Taekwondo Academy has now 8 Para Taekwondo athletes. Those athletes have different physical impairment because of the civil war from their home country, Burundi. Supported by Taekwondo Humanitarian Foundation, they have gained the confidence, hope, and ability through Taekwondo training. One of the para-athletes, his name is Parfait Hakizimana, is hoping to be part of 6 members of Paralympic refugee team. He will represent Africa continent in the Tokyo 2020 Paralympic Games. Parfait is leaving behind family tragedy because he lost his parents and his left arm in the civil war from his home country, Burundi. But he's using the power of sport to give many people, including himself, hope. Thank you so much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Placid. It was really inspiring the work you do in Rwanda. And I'd like to open the opportunity to ask questions to Placid. So if you have any question, you can write them in the chat. But because we don't have anyone yet, I have one, Placid, for you. So Placid, if I may ask, what's your main challenge and the main success of this project working with Para Taekwondo in the refugee camp in Rwanda? What would you say?
Yeah, thank you for your question. The main challenge to work with para refugees, para taekwondo athletes in the refugee camps, the main challenge was to have access to the camps because the camps are controlled by the Ministry of Emergency. We had to explain many things, so it was a challenge for us to send instructors to camps, to refugee camps. And the successful story was to have one of our athletes to be selected, and he's hoping to represent Africa in Paralympic refugee team. So I think it's a successful story for Mr. Parfait Kizimana, who is hoping to participate in Tokyo 2020 Paralympic Games. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Placid. If there's any other question, okay, Jose Gigante, good to see you, by the way, an old friend of the IPC. Can you explain how good is para taekwondo for young people in terms of anger management? What would you need to scale up?
Yeah, thank you. Para taekwondo for young people, it's a good material for them to fight for anger, and because it brings them hope, and it expands their dreams. They have many role models, especially Parfait Kizimana, who is training with the young people in the refugee camp. And also they have something to do. They have something to wake up for. So the para taekwondo occupies them instead of having that kind of anger and isolate themselves, because taekwondo, para taekwondo is an occupation for them, because they train on daily basis.
Placid, thanks a lot. If there's any more question that can be sent, and then at the end of the session, there will be an opportunity again to get back to you. And now, well, I will follow with the presentation of what we do from the IPC. But one more time, I really want to thank you for the work that you're doing, and I hope that you can keep the efforts to have many more para athletes in Rwanda. Now, I'll try to do like a brief overview of the work that the Aguitos Foundation, now IPC, has been doing in the area of refugees. If you go to the next slide, please. So the first question that I like to share with you, and the answer is why the Paralympic movement is committed to the refugee cause. Well, the Paralympic movement is a tool. The IPC is a sport organization that uses parasport as a vehicle to make for a more inclusive world. This is our vision, our ultimate aspiration, and we have a very powerful tool that is parasport. Through parasport, we try to achieve that. We have every 2 years the Paralympic Games, the Winter and the Summer Games. Third biggest event in the world after the Olympic Games and the FIFA World Cups in terms of people that watch the games. And then we have blind skiers descending in Super G at 100 kilometers per hour. We have leg amputees jumping more than 8 meters in front of around 70,000 spectators on the stadium, and many more millions on internet and TV. So we believe that the para athlete changed the mindset of the society and how they perceive disability, breaking down barriers for the social participation of 1 billion people living with disability in the world. That's 15% of the world's population. So it's because of our aspiration, but it's also because of the beginning of the movement. This picture that you see in the presentation, this Sir Ludwig Goodman, he started to work in 1943 in a hospital in Stoke Mandeville with persons with spinal cord injuries, victim of the Second World War, and the first to use a sport as a tool of rehabilitation. The first one to organize a sport competition, and that became the Stoke Mandeville Games, what is considered the origin of the Paralympic Games. Sir Ludwig for us is the founder of the movement. He's a visionary, but he was also a refugee. He was a German-US doctor who fled Germany in 1939 before the start of the war. So this deeply rooted in our DNA. So that's why I believe that the Paralympic movement is committed to this. And we started to work, if we go to the next, and we started to work in 2016 through the Aguirre's Foundation, and also the IPC offered the opportunity to some refugees to compete in Rio. 2016, there will be a Paralympic refugee team in Tokyo. But also, I'm not here to talk about the Paralympic refugee team. I'm here to talk about what we do in between the games. In 2019, we committed with UNHCR to facilitate access of refugees to sports facilities and sport competition. And as I was saying, since 2016, we were partnering with IPC member organization with a goal that is to offer opportunities to have access to parasport for refugees and asylum seeker population, so they can get in contact with the local community and host communities, as Peter was explaining in the beginning. We can go to the next. How we do it? Well, everything is starting in 2015. So our dear friend Vasilis and Sakis, that by the way, I just really want to recognize their work and their commitment, because everything started because of them, because of their personal commitment. They present us a project and they call us because they believe that in the highest peak of migrants arriving to Greece, parasport could play a fundamental role. We were convinced since the beginning, and we start to collaborate with them in this project that Vasilis was presenting. And since then, we've been supporting our IPC member organization to replicate this initiative. So we support the 5 projects in Greece, in Cyprus, in Jordan with the National Table Tennis Foundation, as Karin presented. And we've been trying to replicate. We also led a project in 2017 funded by the European Commission to replicate this project in Greece to other European countries, so we could have more clubs and more organizations offering parasport opportunities for migrants and across Europe. And then we joined forces here in the study project, and I'm very happy to see so many NPCs here. If we go to the next slide, please. Some of the results of the initiative, well, in all the different projects, we had more than 100 refugees or asylum seekers trying parasport, and we promoted participation in national and international competition, and in turn, it became a pathway for some of these athletes that are now aspiring to be in Tokyo 2020. We have increased the network of organizations and clubs across Europe. An example is the number of NPCs present here today. And well, we were talking about it before. Fotis was talking about the manual and the materials that we produce. So we tried to gather different expertise, for instance, from the Aguirre Foundation and the IPC. We know about sport, we know about disability with our NPC, Serbia, Greece. So we partnered with other social organizations, tried to create resources for administrators, for coaches that are working with people with disability, refugees with disabilities, because we understand that we might not have all the information, and the coaches, they don't know how to work with people with disabilities and refugees. So it is important to create this type of resources for them. I mentioned 100 refugees, but this is a number. Behind those numbers, there are amazing stories, and I just want to share one story of one of the beneficiaries of the project. His name is Najib. We produced some videos of Najib. He competed in international competitions, but Najib was 13 years old when a bomb was dropping on his house in Syria, and he got a spinal cord injury. So the family decided to flee Syria because of the war, because they wanted to offer a treatment for Najib. And they arrived in Greece in the summer of 2016. I had the opportunity to visit Athens and to talk to Najib's mom. And she told me, or she explained to us that when they arrived in Greece, they were watching TV in the summer of 2016. And suddenly they got to see the Paralympic Games in Rio. And she told me that was the first time that she realized that her kid could have like an opportunity in life, that an activity, something that really inspired her. And she was with Najib, and Najib at the same time, she told his mom that he wanted to be part of this. Well, a bit later, Najib was part of this project, had the opportunity to train, had the opportunity to compete internationally. And I think that's the story behind all these 100 refugees that try para sports. Some of them will become athletes, some others just will use the sport as a tool of socialization, but it's definitely an opportunity for them to get in contact with the society and to contribute to the society from different ways. We go to next, please. Some challenges. I think there's nothing new. Participation of women. I think every one of the previous speaker mentioned it. We need to find strategies to have an increased number of women participating in those projects. We need to acknowledge as well that the number of people, women with disabilities arriving to, with and without disability arriving to Greece is lower than the number of men, but we still need to find some strategies to increase their participation. The mobility of the refugee population, which is not a problem itself, is something that we realize, and Vasilis, I'm sure that he will talk a little bit more about it later, because we have had participants that are like 2, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, and then they leave to other countries. So that's why it's very important that we grow the net of organizations and clubs that are offering opportunities, because whenever they leave to other countries, we need to be able to get in contact with other organizations, with other clubs, so they can still have an opportunity to practice parasport wherever they are, wherever they decide to go. COVID-19, again, nothing new. We've been prevented to participate in the society for more than a year. I play basketball myself, and I haven't been able to play again in 1 year. So this is also creating troubles. Also, the economic situation of a lot of our countries is challenging. So this definitely has a greater impact in the most vulnerable population. And another of the aspects that I will highlight is the expansion to other regions. We've been successful securing funding from European sources. The European Commission is very active and is providing a lot of support, but we still lack of knowledge and capacity of funding for expanding this to other regions. Very happy to see here, actually, NPCs from Africa. I can see Cameroon, I can see Guinea, I can also see NPCs from Oceania, from Canada. So it's I'm very glad to see that many NPCs, and we hope that we can expand this initiative to other countries. If we go to next, please. Just to finalize and to remember some aspects of the things that are important. 80 million people, according to UNHCR in 2020, have fled their homes. From them, 33.8 are asylum seekers and refugees in other countries. According to statistics of the World Health Organization, 15% of the population live with a disability. That means 11.9 million are likely to have a disability. I would challenge this, because we have other statistics with from the World Bank that said that in context of violence, war, exclusion, this percentage can be higher. So but let's say that at least or likely 12 million have a disability. This is just to give some reference. This is more than the population, total population of Greece, more than the total population of Belgium, for instance. And so we need to find solution for this population. We need to offer opportunities. The Paralympic movement, all our members are trying to offer opportunities. And I just want to come back to the goal. When I said that the goal was to promote participation in parasport and promote social inclusion, I just wanted to refer to this sentence of Sir Ludwig Goodman in the 40s, when he said, like, my dream is that every disabled person in the world becomes a taxpayer. That means to be a citizen, to get a job, to contribute with the society, to participate in the society. I think that's really inspiring to me, because that was said like 70 years ago. Nowadays, that applies for the 80 million of people that have fled their homes. And I wanted to finish my presentation with this, because this is our goal, in words of Sir Ludwig Goodman, a refugee that change the society and change the world, creating the Paralympic movement, which highlights the contribution of what a refugee can do, what a person can do to make the world a better place. That is the ultimate aspiration of the IPC. That's all. Thank you very much. I think like the question can be addressed at the end, because I know like I've seen some question, but I'm conscious of.
That's true.
So pass the floor, hand over to Sakis, and I'm going to be here at the end. So Sakis, thank you very much for having me. And again, my recognition to Phyllis and the Hellenic Paralympic Committee.
Thank you, Jose, Marine, and Placide. These are very exciting programs that you run, and you can see that a lot of work has been done, and to reach this point, we had to do a lot of cooperations, and I'm very happy that we have you all here. As Jose said, if you have any questions or anything for clarification from the presentations, please write your answer into the chat box, and we will have the opportunity either at the end of the session to answer it in our Q&A session, or we will address and answer this question to you later on. So let's move on to another set of best practices, but let me remind you that we have also our protagonists here that are waiting to also speak to us. We have Abbas, Alia, Ibrahim, and Wissam. And so please, Vasilis, Matthias, and Anai, if you can be quick, because we are a bit behind on the program. So we will have the opportunity then to also hear the opinions and the saying of our athletes. So, Vasilis, would you like to move on?
Yes, I will. I will be very fast. Mainly for the reason you have already said, we have a protagonist here with us, some of the athletes that we might see them in Tokyo. And also because what I was planning to present in this presentation has already been listened in this meeting already. So I will just try to summarize a bit of this. And can you see my screen?
Yes, we can, Vasilis.
Okay, excellent. So the presentation is including refugees with disability in sports, keys of success according to our experience, which is similar to projects that I heard before from Karin and other presenters. So I would say that we can emphasize in two main factors. The one is the objectives, how to evaluate and prioritize objectives when you decide to run a project like that. And the other is some other factors that I will say shortly after. So when you want to run a project for refugees, a sports project, you need to think about what will be the objectives of this project. So, for example, is it about empowerment? Do you want to mostly empower them? That depends on their situation. I mean, we had refugees in Greece that had just arrived here after a war in their territories, and some of them were injured due to the war, and they were in a very bad situation physically and psychologically, and empowerment in this case is vital, is very important. So you think about doing a parasport introduction to them. For example, it's a grassroots philosophy about how to introduce them in sports and see how they gain out of that. But maybe you have other athletes that have been more years in your country, and they have the status of refugee or an asylee, but they have already adapted in society. And then in that case, you might think of as a main objective the athletes development from the beginning and the Paralympic movement philosophy. So in that case, it might be the Paralympic development. Or what you want to do also is that when you have big numbers of refugees coming to your country from other cultural and religious backgrounds and things like that, then maybe the society itself is a bit hesitant towards their coming, so and their inclusion. So in that case, a project like that might be perfect and ideal to educate society about being tolerant, about respecting diversity, and sports is a very great tool for that. And as I think Mike said at the beginning, it's a very important objective to organize such projects in not in a parallel structure. We don't want the refugees to be training in the refugee camps or in the refugee team, but we want them to train in an inclusive setting, in an inclusive environment. So in that case, that would be plan for all in an inclusive environment. So what we have done in terms of what I just reported in our case is that we use the Paralympic introduction as a first stage for refugees that came in Greece, and some of them didn't even have a clue about what is para sports and Paralympic sports and disability sports. We then invited them to have some parasports experience, meet our Paralympians. Our Paralympians in Greece played a vital role in motivating them to see parasports in a positive view and try to do more about that. The ones of them that wanted to do more, they had actual training experience. In that way, they had an inclusive also experience because many of them participated in team sports or in individual sports, but along with the Greek athletes. So that was also a very good opportunity for them. And in the end, the best of them, they were able to go to competitions and try the Paralympic essence, competitions and high-level competitions. So I would say that it's important to have in your mind what are your main objectives, but there is also a way to achieve multiple goals and multiple objectives if you run a methodology like that. So some of the refugees may need to enter this circle at the beginning and start with a Paralympic introduction, but some of them may enter this circle after the beginning and include themselves in this process accordingly, according to their experience, their background, and the level of competitiveness. The other thing that we need to evaluate and prioritize are some important factors that we need to ask ourselves some questions before we decide if we want or not to be engaged in a project like that. The first thing, Karin said that they were very close with the leadership, for example, of ITTF. So are you ready to do that? Are you really ready to run a project for refugees? You need to have commitment. You need to have to be very close with your governance, with your staff, that they are really committed to do so. The other thing that's very important is that we need to remember that above all, a sports project for refugees is mainly a sports project. Nick Shaw at the beginning said that the UNHCR is not a sport organization, so for them it's very important to do synergies with sports organizations like IPC, like IOC in their level, And in that way, they can have a good results. So this is also another thing that we need to know. Sports organization is very important to be there in a partnership for this kind of projects. The other thing is that if you can do it alone, can you do it alone? No, you cannot. Simply, I would say from my experience, from our experience, you cannot do it alone. You need to create networking and invest in trustworthy synergies with refugee-related organizations and with other social sector entities. You need to have the sport expertise, but you also need to have good synergies. And the other thing that you need to hear about, to ask yourself about is, do you have the money to do that? And our experience is that even if you have the budget and you believe you can support it, you still look for extra funding, because an effective sports project needs also an extra funding, I would say. And in our experience, we had at the beginning the commitment as staff and NPC governing board to do so. We, as a second step, we didn't start organizing sports programs, but we invested some time to build trustworthy relationships and synergies with refugee-related organizations, and to create an interdisciplinary team to do so. Sorry. And as I told you before, you need to ask yourself if you have the money to do so. And funding was a very, very important factor. And luckily, I would say that in this period, if somebody is really interested in running a project for refugees and looks seriously for programs that can support projects like that, he can have some good possibilities and chances to get this extra support that is needed. And it's also very, very important to have an inclusive approach. As I told you before, you need to bring the refugees in your structure. You need to treat them equally to your athletes, to your staff, and embrace them and treat them equally as valuable members of your sports community, both in competitions, in awards, and all of these things that make someone being proud of being an athlete and participate in sports. So this is basically our conclusion about that, and I ran fast to finish this. Thanks a lot. Sakis, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I have slight connection problems. Yes, I have a bit of lag of. Can you hear me? So, can we move on? Yes.
Yes, of course. Hi, hello. I'm really glad to be here. I will try to be as short as possible. I'm going to share my presentation with you. Give me just a minute. We will need to, okay, now I think we're ready. Okay, so my name is Natasha. I'm also project manager of the NGO We Call Society. I will be talking to you very briefly about the initiative called Repower. Repower is a project funded by the Active Citizen Fund. The lead partner and the project manager actually is the Hellenic Paralympic Committee. Excuse me, can you hear me? Okay. And the fund operator of the Active Citizen Fund in Greece is the Psyche Foundation in consortium alongside with Solidarity Now. As we know, people with disabilities are not a homogeneous group. They have different capacities and we have to address their needs differently. The international normative framework has historically overlooked the subgroups within the disabled people in the context of migration, including migrants and refugees with disabilities. And this is exactly the target group of the project. Challenges currently facing Europe on how migrants and refugees can be successfully integrated into local communities are not short-term, as we all know, and will remain on the political agenda for the foreseeable future. The main aspects that we have those challenges are the economic aspect, the legal, and the social. In the social integration, we have this specific and particular interest when it comes to sports, which is our main subject. And we all know that is absent from the most integration policy recommendations. As you all know, it is highly accepted that sports physical activity can be extremely valuable, not only for the participants' physical and mental health, but also in the context of their social inclusion and integration. So the Repower initiative aims to increase the sport participation in refugees with disabilities in Greece and to raise the awareness of the refugee community considering the rights of people with disabilities. How are we going to do that? With those following main actions. Sport activities of 50 young Greeks and refugees with disabilities in a common group in order to interact, to contact. Motivational speaking and demonstration matches in refugee reception centers by Paralympians, young refugees with disabilities, and of course members of the Paralympic Committee with a target group aiming for more than 500 people. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to implement that action yet due to COVID and the pandemic, as you all are really familiar with. Furthermore, training workshops for people with disabilities in order to officially join sports clubs. And finally, workshops addressed to journalists in order to get in direct contact with Paralympic sports and the way we approach disability. We have more than 100 journalists so far. The initiative will be active in February of 2022 in order to promote as far as possible and reach the strength of sports and the need of sports in the social integration, because as we all know, sport changes people's lives. That's our main goal, to change people's lives. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Danai. Sorry, I had a technical problem earlier on and I couldn't be heard. So we still have Matthias Costa, who has to inform us about the summer camp for young refugees with disabilities that took place in Austria from the Austrian Disability Sport Federation. Matthias, you have the floor. Matthias, is Matthias here? Can you hear me? Not, then we will move on to Natasha Yankovic from the Olympic Vargas promotion manager from the Olympic Committee of Serbia.
Yes, hello everyone. Just a moment. Okay, you can hear me and you can see the presentation?
Yes, we can.
Yes, thank you. So hello everyone, and I'm very happy to be with you today and present you the project Aspire and also the follow-up project High Five Happy Caravan, which is currently taking in Serbia.
Aspire stands for Activity, Sport, Play for Inclusion of Refugees in Europe. And it is a project which was co-financed by Erasmus Plus program of the European Union and led by European Non-Governmental Sports Organization, ENGSO. Together with 13 partner organizations from 10 countries, the main focus of the project, which was run from 2017 to 2019, was to focus on social inclusion of people who are at risk of exclusion, and especially refugees. Some of the objectives of the projects were obviously to increase the knowledge and evidence base of working with vulnerable groups, also to support sport organization and offer suitable participation opportunities for those groups. Then to enhance skills and competencies of facilitators and coaches working with those groups, also to enhance intercultural dialogue, and of course, to raise awareness of the added value of sport in promoting the social inclusion of refugees. In order to achieve those objectives, training sessions were held in 9 European countries: Austria, Belgium, Bulgaria, Finland, Germany, Greece, Spain, Sweden, and Serbia. In our case, we come up with the training session, and we were focusing on the target group for facilitators, coaches, and teachers. And basically, because our situation is that we are the transit country, which means that refugees are not staying here. This is not their final destination, so they are moving forward, and they are not spending so much time in Serbia. They're here for a couple of months, and we don't have a big numbers. Let's say it's 500 to 600 people per year who are here, and the kids joining the schools for let's say half a year or a year at most. So our idea was to connect with the refugee centers around Serbia and to work with facilitators and also teachers from the schools which refugees attend. And based on that, we were focused on topics such as intercultural dialogue and psychosocial aspects of inclusive sport coaching. In addition, also the workshops were building inclusive societies and integration through sports and games. And when it comes to sports, obviously the cricket is one of the most popular sports among refugees who are staying here in Serbia. So basically we decided to come up with this kind of workshop, and later through our project High Five Happy Caravan, which was in a way inspired by Aspire. So after finishing with the Aspire project, we decided to move on and to use all those coaches and facilitators which attended the training session. And so we teamed up with some organizations such as Group 484, who is working for many years with refugees, and also obviously Serbian Cricket Federation in order to learn the basics for cricket, and in order for refugees to feel good about it, because in this case the kids were teaching their peers cricket and also football, which is obviously the very popular sport in most of the countries, was chosen also in order to try to get more girls involved. So we played the football 3, which is a special kind of football. And I must mention the IOC Young Leaders Program, and thanks to this program and our young change maker Mirjana Ivkovic, we are continuing with this project. So just in short, we started with the promotion in 2018, end of 2018, during IOC Youth Summit in Tokyo. And then from 2019, from spring, we started to visit different places. Basically, those are the 5 cities which have the refugees centers. And then, as you can see, the workshops that I was mentioning, the cricket, the football tree, also we had some exercises. And at the end, what is also important to mention is that athletes were our role models, and they were visiting all these events together with us. Those are the young athletes who were participating at Youth Olympic Games. And also we had a high involvement of volunteers, participants, and locals. So what is the like when we speak about the numbers, we had for now over 300 participants. So mainly the refugees from let's say school children age. We also donated 70 pieces of sports equipment to all these schools in order for physical education teachers that they can organize those cricket classes or football tree classes. And the nice outcome is that some of the refugees even started to play cricket in Serbian clubs. Obviously, in 2020, we couldn't continue with the project, but now in 2021, we will continue, and in June we will visiting again one of the cities, Vranje. And of course, if you want to follow what is happening, you can follow us through this hashtag High Five Happy Caravan. And also, if you're interested to find out more about documentation from Aspire project, which I think it can be very valuable because at the end, all those materials are still accessible, and the website aspiresport.eu. And what is very important is that all these materials can be downloaded and they're equally applicable to people from other underrepresented groups. And the topics, if you're interested in topics such as intercultural dialogue, accessible sports organization, psychosocial support, or just targeting people who are involved in sport, I think this could be a good guides for you, especially the Aspire training model. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Natasha. We are very well aware of the Aspire program, and we've followed it. And I think Dionys Karakasis, who was a member of one of your partners here in Greece, was also early on in our conference. So let's move on to Maria Makado. She's a project manager at the National Olympic Committee of Portugal, and she will tell us about refugees from the dramatic escape to the Olympic dream. Maria, you have the floor.
Well, can I share my tele? Just a moment.
Yes, you can.
You see, it's okay?
You can see your presentation.
Okay,
yes, perfect.
So
move on.
Good afternoon, and it is a pleasure to share part of the work we do in this area. I take the opportunity to address the compliments of the President of the National Olympic Committee of Portugal. So in a time of unprecedented challenge and changes within society and the world, National Olympic Committee of Portugal pursues its determination aiming to facilitate equal access and participation of refugees in sporting events and competitions at all levels through our Viver o Desporto, Abraçar o Futuro program, that means Live Sports, Embrace the Future. Since 2016, we have maintained this program, which has already supported more than 1,500 refugees. And for many, this sporting experience are the first link of cohesion between themselves and the host community, emphasizing the role of sports as an inclusive element. We start by building partnerships in order to create multiple platforms to coordinate efforts, provide assistance and support through a wide range of sports activities and projects to interact and exchange experience with local communities. These infographics give us an idea of the structures of the program. From about 100 youngsters who have been identified by our grassroots program with outstanding sports skills, 2 of them, one in athletics as a sprinter and another one in boxing, achieved an Olympic Solidarity scholarships, allowing the Olympic preparation plans for Tokyo 2020. Between the place they left and slowly finding new roots in Portugal, sports becomes their homeland. Having arrived in Portugal on May 2016, Dorian is a survival from a very painful journey. As many of the young unaccompanied refugees in the Refugee Children's Reception Center, he lost all his family, friends, homeland. He did not know nothing about our country existence, its language or its culture, but he came with the hope of embracing a promised future. Dorian expressed an interest in athletics. Through our project, the young Congolese refugee began to train at one of the most important sports club in Portugal, Sporting Club de Portugal. And since then, this has become the greatest motivations of his life. After turning 18 years old, the NOC Portugal applied for an Olympic scholarships aiming to integrate Dorian in the Refugee Olympic athletes team. This year, for the first time in the history of world athletics, a refugee officially compete in the European Athletics Indoor Championship. Their commitment and dedication to sports allow them good performance and the conditions for make Dorian dream come true with an eventual inclusion in the Refugee Olympic team. Another one, Farid, arrived in Portugal on 28 December 2012, alone from a reintegration center in Turkey. He was separated from his family when he was only 1 year old. He left Afghanistan at the age of 7 or 8 with deserters from the army without knowing anyone. And from then on, going to Pakistan, Iran, Turkey, until he finally arrived in Portugal at the age of 15. Here, after 5 months, with the help of the coach, he became the national cadet boxing champion. Despite these promising results, the fact that he was not a Portuguese and preventing him from continuing to win titles and officially participate in national championship. Those who know Farid describe him as a tenacious, objective, disciplined, and methodical. Farid is sociable, even extroverted, learning early on the avenge himself. Farid's stories prompted the jury of the Human Rights Prize Committee of the Portuguese Parliament to award him to the gold medal in 2014. Now, on his way to Tokyo, Farid is struggling to be part of the Refugee Olympic athlete team and to be an Olympic champion. He assiduously trains and competes with results that predict a possible participation in Tokyo 2020. Farid also attends the second year of architecture at the university. Exiting the state of emergency we live in, still with restrictions in borders and citizens confined to their homes imposed by the pandemic situation, we made an extra effort to continue this project, and it was not been an easy journey. Despite the difficulties, it has been possible to integrate newly arrived refugees in different competitive sports in a concern effort to so that if they want to be through the sport, they can dream and realize their life project. What the dreams will this newcomer have? Who knows, maybe an Olympic dream. NLC Portugal also encouraged the participations of refugees in great sport events, promoting integrations and allowing to break barriers and limitations related to language and cultural difference. We took advantage of the confinement breaks to invite refugees to watch the first league soccer in the stadiums and to the UEFA Nation Leagues. The experience as a supporter is essential because it is a festive time. The moments of celebrations break the monotony of everyday life and create happy memories, fundamental to the difficult process of rooting in the new country. It sounds like just another soccer game, but it makes people feel happy and welcome. We are determined to pursue our commitment because we are sure of the role of sports as a means of change and social development of the service of humanity. That's why we affirm the respect, individual, collective, and for the world, the friendship, founding the strongest links to build a better and more peaceful world, and the excellence, giving our best in the game and in the life, and to participate together in the constructions of a better world. Thank you very much, and if you have questions, I'll be glad to.
Thank you very much, Maria.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you. So let's move on now to some testimonies of our athletes. We had earlier on Ibrahim Al-Hussein here and Abbas Karimi. I think they have left at the moment because they had other engagement. But we have Wissam Sami with us. He's connecting with us from Germany. He's in Berlin right now. Wissam, can you hear us?
You hear me?
Yes, hello, Wissam. So, how are you doing? It's nice to have you with us today. Wissam,
with the old audience.
good. Wissam,
yeah.
Yeah, Wissam Sami is a wheelchair fencing athlete and refugee from Iraq. And we have him today to give us a few answers on his testimony, how he feels that he had the opportunity to do sports and how important it is for you, Wissam, to be able to participate in sports activities.
Yeah. My name is Wissam. I'm from Iraq. I lived in my country in 2014. I was in Iraq. I lived to Syria, after Syria to Turkey, after Turkey to Iceland, Samos. When I was in Samos Islands, the UNHCR, they told me we have a program for sport, what we like to do. I don't care the first time because in my country it's difficult to do something if you like it. But when I was in Athens, I was in Solidarity Now, this organization is working with.
Wissam, can you put your microphone a bit closer to, can you put on your microphone so we can hear you? Yes, better.
Yeah. So when I was in Athens, arrived in Athens, I met with Rajab. Rajab, it's with me the same hotel for refugee. So, and the same organization, they told me what you like to play there. Yeah, I told them I tried to play fencing in Iraq, but they didn't give me a chance in Iraq. They told me it's difficult for you. So I meet with Hellenic, it's work with the Paralympic community, Hellenic, and the first time I meet with Saki, positive, and they show me a lot of games and choice what you like to do. And I make the sword, I built the sword, so I told them I want to play this game, Walter Fencing. I back in my house, I think I have a new dream. I have somebody with me to support me. They give me more energy. They give me really. I like the Greece, and I like the when they saw somebody. I have something. I have something. I am left in my country because I want peace. And when I was arriving in Greece, the program and Agitos Foundation, IPC, and the Hellenic Paralympic community all together. I feel I am with my family. They give me more energy. They give me more support, and I have a new dream. So I'm try to play many games. I'm training, and I have first competition in Greece in Athens. I think in Mati. After next competition, I have. They told me you will go to Poland, Warsaw. So this is the first competition, and they have another competition in Hungary with the IWAS, and I have more experience. I have more because I'm meeting with a good player. I have many lessons. That's it.
Good. Okay. Thank you, Wissam. We have a small video from the IPC that we would like to show you, and then we would like to speak with Alia Issa. If you can stay around, Wissam, for the questions and answers, maybe there will be some questions. Okay. Let me share with you a video. Ναι. So the sound wasn't so good, I heard. So we're gonna maybe put it on again later on. We have only with us. We have also with us Alia Issa, together with her coach. Alia, can you hear us? Alia, μας ακούς?
Ναι, σας ακούω. Καλησπέρα.
Γεια σου, Alia. Let me translate. Alia says good evening. Alia, θα μας πεις δύο λογάκια για το πόσο σημαντικός είναι ο αθλητισμός για σένα και πού σε βοήθησε για να μπορέσεις να κάνεις κάποια πράγματα. I just asked Alia how important sport is for her to have the opportunity to do more things in her life. Πες μου, Alia.
Ο αθλητισμός είναι πολύ σημαντικό για μένα. Με βοήθησε πάρα πολύ στην υγεία μου και ότι πηγαίνα και κάνω προπόνηση με τους άλλους αθλητές και βγαίνω από το σπίτι. Αυτό με βοήθησε πάρα πολύ και θέλω να το συνεχίσω πάρα πολύ για όσο μπορώ.
Ας με να μεταφράσω λίγο, Alia. Alia says that sport is very important for her. It's very good for her health and it helps her a lot, but it also gives her the opportunity to get out of her house and to go and train together with other athletes, which is very important because she has the opportunity to do things. Συνέχισε, Alia.
Και θέλω και οι γονείς μου είναι πολύ περήφανοι για μένα που συμμετείχα σε τέτοιους αγώνες και εγώ είμαι πολύ περήφανη για τον εαυτό μου που το κατάφερα τόσο καλά και θα πάω στους Παραλυμπιακούς αγώνες. Δηλαδή δεν το φανταζόμουν να πάω σε μια φορά στους Παραλυμπιακούς αγώνες.
Alia says that her parents are very proud of her doing sport, doing things, and she's very, very proud that, and she never imagined that she would have the opportunity to travel abroad to go to sports competition, and she's very happy to have the chance to qualify and to get the opportunity, maybe also to go to the Tokyo Paralympic Games. Ωραία, Αλία, είναι κάτι άλλο που θες να πεις?
Στο τέλος θέλω να ευχαριστήσω πάρα πολύ την Ελληνική Παραλυμπιακή Επιτροπή που με βοηθάει να πηγαίνω στην προπόνηση.
Να είσαι καλά, ευχαριστώ πολύ, Αλία. At the end, she says she wants to thank the Hellenic Paralympic Committee for her support that helps her to get to her training. Ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ, Αλία. Κάτσε λίγο μαζί μας, να σου υπάρξει καμία άλλη ερώτηση. Και σου ευχόμαστε ό,τι καλύτερο, καλή επιτυχία και ελπίζουμε οι προσδοκίες σου να πετύχουν. Να είσαι καλά.
Ευχαριστώ.
So, all the best to Alia and her aspirations. And we also have Sharat Najapur here with us. I don't know if he can hear me from the United States. He's the athlete that represented the refugee team in Rio in 2016. Sharat, can you hear me? Sharat? He cannot hear me.
Hello.
Yes, hello. Yes. Nice to see you, Sharat.
Okay. How are you guys? Thank you. Thank you. I didn't expect that. Sorry.
It's nice. It's nice to see you. It's very good to have you with us.
You too. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it was a huge experience in Rio to see you compete and parade with a refugee team together with Ibrahim. And we would like to just to ask you a few questions. And how do you feel? How important is sport for you? And what role has it played in your life?
Well, before Rio, like 2012, I used to be on the Iranian team. I went to like a couple of international games, and for some reasons I couldn't continue. I got banned from the Iranian national team and left in 2015. So it's a long story, but when I contact, actually no one contact me to IPC. It was only me. I mean, it was me that contacted the first time about this team before they formed this team in late 2015 to IPC to ask them if they have such team for the Rio. So, and after when I got qualified for the games, it was a great experience actually because it was my first Paralympic, but I had the experience of the World Games before that, like 2011 and 12. Then when I got the response that okay, I'm going to Rio with Ibrahim, was actually it was excitement and very very huge moment for me. But after that, I had some other difficulties, but still trying to do better. And I mean, yeah, and right now everything kind of got better, but I'm just trying to do my best.
Okay, perfect. You're also doing very good athletically. I've seen you're on a very good level. So I hope that everything will go good for you. Wish you all the best and hope that maybe you're also going to be in Tokyo. Good luck.
Thank you so much, Abby, too. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, thank you for being with us. Thanks.
Thanks.
So with that, we have reached the final leg of our webinar today. We are going to start our Q&A sessions. Wait a moment, let me check. No, stop. We have closing remarks before from Vasilis. And we ask everybody to stay with us. We'll give you a poll to give you feedback on the webinar today, and let us know if you liked it and what you liked and what you didn't like. And so we have a Q&A session right now. Christina, if you want, you can ask the poll to get started. And we maybe can also start also the Q&As. Good. Do you see now the poll? If you can give us your feedback on this webinar. So I don't know if everybody has followed the Q&A, the chats and the questions that were said there. There have been some answers. If there's anyone who wants to ask another question or address one of the presenters, now is the time to do this. Any questions? Anybody wants to ask something?
Hi, Sakis. Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, sure.
My name is Jose. I'm a former member of the IPC and IPC Academy. I've been far from the Paralympic world, unfortunately, but more getting involved with the refugee world. And my question is, having been involved in this and having learned a lot about your project, what are your priorities for 2022 and going forward? You know, what kind of fundraising, what kind of campaigns, what are you going to do in terms of a strategy, just to understand where you are, what you want to achieve, and how can not just me, but anybody that we might know in the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. That's a good question. Actually, we have a closing presentation from Vasilis about our next steps. I don't know if he wants to say a few words now, or if you want to wait until the end. Vasilis?
Yes, Jose. Actually, what is our inspiration about the project is similar to what Jose said about Goodman's saying, that we want to make every people with disability a taxpayer, similar to, because our dream is to make this project sustainable. And we believe that to do it sustainable in the future is to follow an inclusive approach. Refugees, at least in our experience, have started being adopted in the new lives in Greece and in other European countries. And what we believe will make this project sustainable is when they are included in sports structures that do not discriminate and separate the local and national athletes and people from the refugees. And this is why we give an emphasis to the inclusive approach. We try to organize sports for refugees in the existing sports structures, sport clubs and stuff like that. And we want to somehow take advantage of this big promotion that is going to happen in the Paralympic Games through the participation of the 6 athletes in the Paralympic refugee team in order to disseminate the Sports for Refugees projects. And after that, following an inclusive approach to make this sustainable. So I would say we have moved from the first steps of the project, where we had to organize programs in parallel. And now the new steps include mostly strategies that will put them in the existing sports communities. And there will be no need actually to run projects like that in the future. Of course, we can never predict what the destiny will bring to all of us, and we can also have tailor-made approaches whenever we again face refugee crisis like the one that we have faced.
If I can also say a few words, we have also tried to raise this issue and to make more and more countries in Europe aware. And we've got quite a good response on that. So many countries are working on this issue. And I believe what Vasily says is important, that trying to make it a part of our movement and give opportunities in the structures that already exist, so that refugees and migrants with disability can participate in all levels together with the nationals in Greece. So this is very important for all over Europe. And I've seen also in the questions that there's also strong interest from African countries to do similar programs. So I believe there is a strong interest everywhere to do such kinds of programs, and there should be a coordination and information, and I think the study project will provide a lot of that in terms of giving some feedback, giving manuals, and guiding somebody how to do such kind of projects. But I think we have also Ibrahim Al-Hussein with us. He was not connected early on. Maybe we can ask him to speak with us. Ibrahim, can you hear us? Μας ακούς, Ibrahim? Hello, Ibrahim.
Ναι. Καλησπέρα.
Έλα, Ibrahim, τι κάνεις? Καλησπέρα.
Καλά είμαι, μια χαρά. Εσείς, όλα καλά?
Μια χαρά είμαστε. Χαιρόμαστε που σε έχουμε κοντά μας.
Θα ανοίξω το κάμερα, πιστεύω καλύτερα.
Μπράβο, πολύ καλύτερα. Θες να μας πεις λίγο?
Πάρα πολύ.
Ναι.
Πρώτα, χαίρομαι πάρα πολύ. Έχει μεγάλη συνάντηση, μιλάτε για ομάδα πρόσφυγας. Αυτό είναι κάτι πάρα πολύ σημαντικό για μας, για όλους την ομάδα. Δεν είναι μόνο στην Ελλάδα, για όλους στον κόσμο.
Ibrahim says that he's very glad to be here with us. He's very happy to hear that we are discussing about refugees and how to include them. And it's important not only for refugees here in Greece, but all around the world. And it's very important that we have this discussion. Hey, Ibrahim.
Ναι, σίγουρα δεν είναι κανένας από εμάς, από ομάδα πρόσφυγας, δεν μπορεί να φτάσει πολύ ψηλά είναι μόνο του. Θα μιλήσω για ομάδα πρόσφυγας στην Ελλάδα. Ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ γιατί είναι δίπλα μας Ελληνική Παραλυμπιακή Επιτροπή που έχουμε φτάσει μέχρι τώρα.
Ibrahim wants to thank the Hellenic Paralympic Committee. He said that nobody can reach the top without support, without help from somebody else. So it's very important to have networks there that support refugees so that they can be helped, so they can do things and reach higher levels. Ναι, Ιμπραήμ, για σένα πόσο σημαντικό είναι ο αθλητισμός και να κάνεις αθλητισμό, Ιμπραήμ, για να μπορείς να ζεις μέσα με τον τρόπο αυτό?
Μπορώ να μιλήσω τώρα?
Ναι,
δεν ξέρω αν τελείωσες μετάφραση. Σίγουρα ξανά να μιλήσω. Άμα δεν είναι ελληνική παραλυμπιακή, είναι δίπλα μας. Πιστεύω δεν μπορεί να φτάσει η ομάδα πρόσφυγας μέχρι αυτή τη στιγμή. Θέλω κάτι πάρα πολύ σημαντικό. Μάλλον ξέρετε, θα ξεκινήσει σε λίγες μήνες ομάδα πρόσφυγας μπάσκετ αμαξίδιο. Μακάρι να μπορείτε να κάνετε βοήθεια για να ξεκινήσει μεγάλη ομάδα.
Ibrahim says that support is always very important, and he also tries to organize a wheelchair basketball team of refugees, and he asks for everybody's support so he can move on and try to organize this refugee basketball team.
Είναι σίγουρα θα ξεκινήσει πρώτη γραφείο για ομάδα πρόσφυγας μπάσκετ αμαξίδιο, θα ξεκινήσει από Άθηνα.
But he's sure when they will start with an office in Athens. Ευχαριστούμε πολύ.
Άμα μπορείτε, χρειάζομαι λίγο βοήθεια για να φτιάξουμε ακόμα λίγα χαρτιά. Γιατί ξέρετε, όταν φτιάξουμε γραφείο, χρειάζεται χαρτιά από κράτος για να μπορεί να ανοίξουμε γραφείο κανονικά.
He said that he needs support to organize this endeavor, to organize the basketball team and to open up the offices. He will have the support from us if he needs any kind of support. Εμείς θα στηρίξουμε πάντως, Ιμπραήμ, ό,τι χρειαστείς. Μπορεί να βρισκόμαστε στο πλευρό σου. Και ευχαριστούμε. Η εμπειρία σου από το Ρίο, ποια είναι? Ήταν σημαντικό που μπόρεσες να συμμετάσχεις στο Ρίο? Πώς άλλαξε τη ζωή?
Είναι όταν γύρισα για γυμναστική, πάρα πολύ εκεί τη στιγμή έχω όνειρο. Μέχρι τώρα είναι πάρα πολύ, είναι Ρίο de Janeiro, έχει άνοιξει τρόπο μπροστά μου. Δρόμο είναι κλειστό. Όταν έχει ξεκινήσει η ομάδα πρόσφυγας, έχει άνοιξει τρόπο μπροστά μου, έχει άνοιξει δρόμο. Πώς μπορώ να κάνω? Είναι, ξέρεις, άμα είμαι καλός να φτάσω όταν θέλω. Άμα είμαι κακός, είναι τέρμα. Γι' αυτό είναι πάρα πολύ, έχει αλλάξει, δεν είναι μόνο για μένα. Έχει αλλάξει, πιστεύω, γιατί έχω επικοινωνία παραπάνω από 70 αθλητές πρόσφυγας στον κόσμο. Έχω επικοινωνία μαζί τους παραπάνω από 70 αθλητές. Είναι όλοι όνειρό τους για να φτάσουν στους Ολυμπιακούς Αγώνες. Όλοι κάνουν προπόνηση για να φτάσουν στους Ολυμπιακούς Αγώνες. Μόνο στην Τουρκία είχε 23 αθλητές. Μόνο στην Τουρκία.
Ibrahim says that the Paralympic Games, or the dream to have to go to the Paralympic Games, opens up a way. Before he was able to dream about sport, he thought that every door was closed for him and there was no opportunity. After he got the opportunity to aspire to go to the Paralympic Games, he started to dream and he started to find ways to move forward. And this is not only for him, but for every refugee athlete in the world. He says that he is in contact with more than 60 refugee athletes all around the world. Only in Turkey, there are more than 23 athletes. And it's important for them to see that there are opportunities, that they can do something. And if they train hard, they can have a dream to go to important international games or to the Paralympic Games. And this gives them hope and gives them the opportunity to dream. Okay. Ωραία. Ευχαριστούμε πολύ, Ιμπραήμ.
Συγγνώμη, τελευταίο κάτι πολύ σημαντικό. Έχει διαφορετικά ομάδα πρόσφυγας, διαφορετικά με άλλες ομάδες. Τι είναι διαφορετικά? Είναι από καθένας από άλλη πατρίδα. Παράδειγμα, για μένα είναι δίπλα μου είναι αδερφός μου είναι ο Ισάμ από Ιράκ, από στον Ιράκ. Έχει εδώ είναι δίπλα μου είναι ο Σαρχάτ από Ιράν. Έχει ομάδα πρόσφυγας, έχει γίνει όλοι, καταλαβαίνετε, από κάθε πατρίδα έχει γίνει οικογένεια. Είναι κάτι πάρα πολύ ωραίο. Πάρα πολύ ωραίο. Για μένα πάρα πολύ χαρούμενος. Δεν έχει κάτι είναι αυτός από στο Ιράκ, άμα αυτός είναι από Ιράν. Δεν υπάρχει ομάδα πρόσφυγας. Είναι οικογένεια. Όλοι είναι οικογένεια.
Ωραία, τέλεια. Ας να μεταφράσω λίγο, Ibrahim. Ibrahim says that he feels that the refugee team is like a family, that people from different countries, refugees from different countries are participating in the refugee team, but all of them are feeling that they are family. And for them, they feel that they can inspire other people, other refugees to participate, and they can make this feeling that they all are one family, share it with others and give them hope so that they can participate in such kind of activities. Ωραία, τέλεια, Ibrahim, ευχαριστούμε. Ναι.
If I may add something on that, is that when we started the project, we had this anxiety that, maybe because what Ibrahim said, because they have such a big diversity of cultures, religions, and stuff like that, how would it be to bring them all together and be in the same team and blah, blah, blah. And we were surprised very positively to see that, what Ibrahim just said is a fact. All the members of the refugee team we developed in Greece, although they were coming from different backgrounds and cultures, they felt like being in a family, in a team, under this initiative. And it's so good that sports and parasport unite, in fact.
Ωραία, good. Thank you, Βασίλης. Ευχαριστούμε πολύ, Ibrahim. Ευχαριστούμε πολύ που είχες το χρόνο να μείνεις μαζί μας.
Και εμείς ευχαριστούμε για τα κάνετε συνάντηση για θέμα για ομάδα πρόσφυγας. Εμείς ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ.
Thank you very much, Ibrahim. Good. To conclude this meeting, if there are any other questions, we are open for them. If nobody wants to ask something, then maybe we can show the video again. Stay with us, Ibrahim. You can see the video. Μείνε μαζί μας, αρέσει και δεν ξέρω αν το είδες το βίντεο πριν, είσαι και εσύ μέσα. And maybe Vasilis can share the video, and the poll is still on. Everybody who hasn't filled out the poll, please do so. And I would like to thank you all for being with us. It was a huge experience. It was nice to have you with us. It was nice to have this discussion, and I think a lot of opportunities have been created, so we can continue to be in contact, to share everything we find out with our project, but also find out about your projects that are very interesting, and find a way, like Ibrahim says, to become a family and to do something good. Okay, thank you, everybody. Vasily, would you like to put on the video again?
Yes, I will, but just a few words for the closing about the next steps of Steady project. It will be very, very short presentation. I don't know. Give me a second. Just small things, because we made an introduction. We described what we have been done so far, what we have been doing so far, and just a few words about what's next to the end of the Steady project. And as you remember, Fotis and Alicia described two of the deliverables that we have so far accomplished. Still, we do have pilot actions. All partners will undertake some pilot actions in relation to the sports and refugees with disabilities objective. We will run a Steady Action Week in Europe. All partners in their countries They will organize some events to promote and campaign for the Sports and Refugees with Disabilities initiative. The study project is going to participate in next autumn in the European Sports Week, and we will produce some policy recommendations, as I said during the introduction. The study project will pick and accomplish its final objective through an international final conference that's going to happen here in Athens, in Greece, at the end of the project. The pilot actions that all the partners will undertake have 4 different directions. Some of the partners will do some activities to include more refugees with disabilities in sports activities. Some others will take some initiatives to promote opening and the coordination of innovation programs for raising awareness of study. 2 other partners, sorry for this, will run workshops for training of NGO professionals and sports instructors in the design and delivery of sports activities for refugees with disabilities. Displaced youth with disabilities stands for DEED. And there is also another direction of pilot action that will help national and regional NGOs by promoting the establishment of objectives and cooperation agendas to involve the refugees with disabilities in sports activities. These are the four types of pilot actions that we will undertake in the future of study project. And the study week of sports will take place this summer. So all partners in Greece, Bulgaria, Portugal, Austria, Spain, Germany through Agitos, Italy, and Serbia, they will organize some activities bringing together refugees with disabilities with local athletes in their countries, Paralympians. Some other partners will organize some public events of Paralympic sports awareness, where refugees and locals will participate together in common. And this will be coordinated in, we call it a European Steady Action Week. It might be 2 weeks period, but we will all coordinate together our activities, and we will try to launch and run a good campaign about our project. And as I told you before, we will produce also a policy recommendation document to be used by entities that are in the position to design and implement policies about refugees and sports. And we will end up with the final international conference. The initial planning was that the study project would finish in the end of 2021. We all know that the pandemic has caused a negative impact to all kind of sports, social, and other kind of activities globally. We try hard to stay in track and with the timeline, but we will be able to inform you through our communication channels with you and our website if there will be some slight differences in this timeline. And we would be very happy if when leaving this webinar, you still want to contact us, because we actually need you. What we're trying to do is to put some seeds, and we need people to also do that with us. So we would be happy if you keep in touch with us. If you are available to even participate in some of our future activities, and do this a win-win situation for all involved in this project. Thank you very much for this. I want to share the video, Sakis. I hope it will be played with sound and better this time. And Christina, if you can also share, we published a poll before. We only got 30 responses from all of you. You are about 90 people in this seminar. I don't know exactly how many are right now here, but we will relaunch the poll. Okay, we will relaunch the poll, and at the same time, I will try. I will also try to play the video. Okay. Sakis φαίνεται?
No, definitely. He's kind of mutes.
Thank you. Good evening from Zambia. Thank you very much for this initiative, and something which has come at the right time when a lot of national Paralympic committees trying to see how to get their foot on the ground, especially looking at African setup and the number of refugees which we have seen, the influx from most of countries like here in Zambia. We have refugees from DRC Congo. We have refugees from Rwanda, Burundi, who have chosen to go back to their home. And this initiative of bringing sport into their camps actually is a very great achievement and a very great opportunity to see how best they can feel at home while they're away from their respective homes. For Hellenic Paralympic Committee, I would say well done, and please keep it up. And I think in the next project you about to undertake, I think start considering also the African countries to see how best you can partner with them to look at the issues of refugees and to mitigate the effect that comes with being out of your own country into a foreign land. And also we need to see to it that we should also look at the standard of the camps which these people are living in. And you know also that most of these refugees with disabilities are coming into these countries with not that they were born with a disability, but these are disabilities which have acquired along the way. And therefore also when you look at it critically, find that the camps, the way they are designed, the way everything is set up, persons with disabilities are not taken into consideration. So we found that even the facilities which are there in the refugee camps are not even suitable for these people with disabilities. So also these are the things which we need to bring out and open to see how best we can make that refugees with disabilities really feel at home and are able to enjoy the same enjoyment like any other without disabilities. We are looking at issues of water and sanitation. We are looking at the infrastructure design. We are looking at issues of equipment and also the playgrounds where they can be able to participate in sport. And also like to see a situation where national Paralympic committees all over the world, I think we're a great team. We're a great organization. I am the former president of the National Paralympic Committee of Zambia, and I think we need to invest a lot in human resource development. We really need to be in building capacity to all the National Paralympic Committee so that they're also able to know and understand that one, being a refugee, being out of their own countries. I think we can make more sense to make them feel at home and develop their mind, their thinking, their understanding, so that they can able to start feeling that confidence in them and be able at one day to represent their countries. I think this initiative is a great one, and I look forward to participating in more of these conferences. I think I've no much words, but just to say congratulations, you guys, for what you have done. And I think this is a very good start. It's further ahead. You have our support, and I'm sure even the IPC will give the support. Thank you so very much, and good evening from Zambia.
Thank you very much, Tango. It's very nice to have you here. It's very important to hear your feedback. I think also large organizations like the IPC, the Agitos Foundation, see this need, and I think they will start to do more. And also organizations like the UNHCR and sport federations. I think some of sport federations have shown the way. So there's a lot of opportunity there and a lot of people that need support. So I believe that they can run a lot of programs and try to support all these people. So thank you for being with us, and thank you for your very important remarks. Anybody else having a question or wants to add something?
We can play the video maybe.
Yes, give it a try.
Let me know the sound is okay.
Swimming is a way of my life. When I take the sword in my hand, I feel it in my heart.
Bueno, hijo. Now we have difficulty to show it. Still no audio. Oh, we have a raised hand. I've seen from Etienne. Etienne, would you like to say something?
Yeah, good afternoon, good day to everybody, and nice to be with you guys. Yes, I'm Etienne Songa from the National Paralympic Committee of Cameroon. I'm the Secretary General, and I've been involved for many years in Agitos Foundation's activities, especially training activities here in Africa, in several countries. And I really find this initiative, I mean, this project very interesting. And then I want to thank again the Hellenic Paralympic Committee, the study project, and of course the IPC and all the participants. So yes, I really find it interesting. I see that a lot of countries and a lot of institutions have been working on some project to forward this issue of disabled people in refugee camps and so on. I think back here in Africa, I think we have very few examples of such activities, like we said, we saw in Rwanda and maybe in Zambia, I don't know, but these activities are very few here. So how? Because I think what could be the way forward to help Africa also to be involved in such activities, maybe try to connect it with the UNHCR here, with the refugees and so on. So because I'm sure that the potential is here. I mean, potential in terms of number of disabled people in refugee camps because of course, many conflicts in the region here. So maybe we'll have to see how also to train guys here, to train guys in Africa so that they can manage such kind of projects and interact efficiently with the UNHCR, the IPC, of course, and also so as to bring those guys, those disabled guys in refugee camps, to bring them into Paralympic activity, Paralympic sport and participation. So this will be my concern and my proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Etienne. I think very, very correct remarks, like before also Lango. There are many opportunities there, and I believe the IPC and other organizations can take it on from there and see how they can find ways to develop these programs also in countries in Africa, because there are a lot of refugees there, a lot of persons with disability, and we should find ways how to support them, how to get equipment there, and find ways to do it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So to conclude, we're going to give it a last chance. Is there another Mark? Would you like to say something, or? We cannot hear you. You have to turn on your microphone. Okay, good. Then maybe give it a last try to see the video. I would like to thank again everybody. It was very nice to have you with us. It was very inspiring to hear all your voices, all your programs and everything. And we hope to see you again soon. The study program will continue, and we hope that at our final conference, we can have opportunity to speak with most of you and also find ways how we can cooperate and support your programs, get inspired by your programs, also find ways how we can work together to do even more to support refugees. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you a lot and bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, bye-bye from Vienna, Austria. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
From Rwanda.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye from Germany. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Sam.